That thing on. I'm Chuck, alcoholic. Podium where you can set your water down, but I'm gonna fall down and hit my head on that. That might be ugly. But I'm Chuck, alcoholic, and man, there's a lot of people in here tonight. Just grateful to be sober tonight, and Brad, appreciate you wearing your Wolfpack colors for me.
You'll get me back.
Yeah, no, you won't. You won't catch me in Carolina blue ever, not even dead. But it's an honor to be asked to speak anywhere's local, especially because they know you and all. But I think this is the third time I've spoke at this group, and I remember the first time I was asked to speak here. It was a very humbling experience. It was back when they met downstairs, and Waylon, is he in here tonight? Yep. There he is. Waylon asked me to speak, and back then they used to meet at 8. Tom and Wallace were still in their 80s back then. They could stay up. So I came pulling in the parking lot about 7:30. I mean, you couldn't even find a spot to park. There was cars parked all down the road, and I got on my cell phone, called my sponsor. I was like, man, they know it. I was like, they heard I was coming. And, I went on in. You could barely get in the door. The room down there where they met was a little small, and it was wall to wall. And I try to always find whoever asked me to speak, let them know I'm there. And I went up to Waylon, and I was like, well, just wanted to let you know I'm here. And he's like, well, you're speaking next week. And they had one of those fancy speakers from out of town, that everybody wanted to hear. So I was like, all right. And I hung around, listened to the guy, and I knew he wasn't as good as me, but he did a good job. And so I came back the next Thursday, and there's about 3 cars in the parking lot. It was the international convention. Waylon wasn't even here. They were all gone to Toronto or somewhere. So, I had to call my sponsor and let him know that, I wasn't that big of a deal after all. He laughed and said, well, I knew that. But, I'm just grateful to be sober. My home group's Keeping It Sober group, the greatest group in the world. Yes. We're well represented tonight. I sent out a group text this morning, and I think everybody responded except for a couple backed out on me. And I'll take care of that resentment later. But, my sobriety date is March 18th, 1993. And, I'd say that, and it's like, wow, 93. I'm coming up on 21 years if I can stay sober another month or so. And, my life has gotten so much better since that day. And, me and Waylon got sober. I think he's got me by 6 days or something like that. But, ain't too many of us around from 93. I mean, there's just a few that are still around. Most of them have died or, I don't know. I guess they got drunk or whatever. But, I mean, it's just goes to show that how precious this program is. And if you stick around any amount of time, what a miracle it is and how lucky. I'll never forget how lucky I am to be sober and to have the life that I've got today, which is awesome. I mean, unbelievable life. And, sometimes I take it for granted, but I know any time, this time of year especially, coming up on an anniversary or whatever, I start, recollecting back on what it was like and what's happened over the years, and I mean, if you're new in Alcoholics Anonymous, put on your seatbelt because you're going for a ride if you stick around here. I'm telling you right now, you're going to be rocketed on into that 4th dimension. It talks about the big book. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I turned 2 years old the same day Wallace got sober. My birthday is February 16th. And I was in Raleigh too. I wasn't locked up at Central Prison. I was probably locked in a playpen or something. But I needed a drink that day. I'm guarantee you that for sure. I needed a drink early on, and I did too. I can remember some of my earliest memories were. I'm here to tell you right now. You hear a lot of things behind the podium of people being raised up in families and dysfunctional and this, that, and the other. And I'm gonna tell you right now. I mean, I couldn't have picked a better family than the one I come from. My parents, back in September, I think, celebrated 56 years married. Other than me and my brother trying to break them up, I don't think there was ever any trouble. I've got 3 sisters and a brother, younger brother, 1 older sister, and my sisters are all pretty much normal. I mean, they've all achieved. I mean, just you know, and then me and my brother, not so good, you know. By the grace of God, he's been clean and sober in the program of Narcotics Anonymous since '93 too. So we've been truly blessed as a family, and you can believe that all of my family appreciates Alcoholics Anonymous and the other fellowship. And there's no doubt about it. You know, they know the deal. But you know, tonight I'd just like to talk about. I never know what I'm going to say. You know, sometimes I give a drunk log. I could get up here and do an hour stand-up comedy, no problem. You know, make you laugh or whatever. But you know, I think tonight I'm just going to try to tell a little bit of my story and try to concentrate on maybe some gratitude and some, you know, for some of the people that have helped me stay sober, because we take some of these things for granted that happen. And I've been thinking for the last couple of days about all the miracles that might have seemed like coincidences as I've come along through this program. And you know, but after a little while, you realize that, you know, those weren't coincidences at all. And some of that stuff will take place here tonight. Maybe a guy gets his sponsor for the first time, or something like that, and the consequences or the sequence in which that happens. And it may seem like just a regular deal going on, but when you look back at it a year later, 5 years later, or whatever, you realize that, you know, the first miracle Alcoholics Anonymous was probably when Bill was in the Mayflower Hotel, you know, and he looked at that directory, and he saw this guy Tunks that rhymed with drunks, you know, and he's like, well, I'll call this guy. He only had a little bit of money, you know, and he ends up getting the Episcopal preacher who knows about Henrietta Seiberling, who knows about Dr. Bob. And those things weren't coincidences. I mean, that didn't just happen, you know, he picked the right one. What if he would have picked somebody else on that directory that night? You know, maybe none of us would be here. And I've had things like that happen to me, you know. I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. I came to my first AA meeting to bring my brother some stuff while he was in treatment. I wasn't even there to get sober. I was smuggling drugs to an AA meeting. And, you know, I'm standing up here tonight, almost 21 years sober. So, you know, you think about those things, and it's a miracle. You know, it's a miracle the way God works. But I can remember being young, and, man, I was uncomfortable. I'm here to tell you right now, I've heard it called restless, irritable, discontent, just uncomfortable. But I had heard another term described the way I was a while back. And I don't know if any of y'all out there are single, but people always trying to set me up. I guess they're afraid that we're going to go extinct or something if, you know, we don't get these single people together, and you know, they see one of us or something at a party and they're like, there's one, let's get him. And but they tried to set me up with this girl, and I was like, first thing I asked was like, well, what's wrong with her, you know, because there's got to be something wrong with her if she's single, you know. I mean, the same thing they say about me, what's wrong with him? And they like, well, she's awkward. I'm like, awkward? What the hell does that mean? Socially awkward. And that's how I was as a kid. I mean, I didn't fit in nowhere. You know what? It didn't matter what it was. I was uncomfortable. I mean, you know. And the only time I felt good or felt comfortable was when I had a guitar in my hand, or if I was playing baseball or something like that, you know. But I mean, at school, with the girls, you know, adults, grown-ups, in church, all that stuff, I mean, it was rough. I mean, you know, I needed a damn drink early. You know, I needed a drink really early. I swear, I believe they should have come into my first grade class and set up a bar, and they could have found out who had alcoholism right quick, you know. Because I mean, I probably would have been cool as hell in first grade if I'd have had something to drink, but I wasn't, man. I was struggling, you know, and I'd go around like getting in fights and stuff like that, because I didn't know what to do, you know. I mean, all I knew to do was, man, react, you know, kick your blocks over or whatever, take your paste, I mean, you name it, you know. And I had all this stuff going on, and I was really insecure. And I'm going to tell a little story here, and this is true. Down there in Maxton, North Carolina, where I went to school, they had 2 first grade teachers, either first or second grade. And I can remember hearing the adults talk, you know, and you're around at these little get-togethers and stuff, and, you know, the moms are all talking about, well, we sure hope he gets Miss Carter, or, boy, I sure hope he doesn't get Miss White. And my oldest sister got Miss Carter, and my sister behind me got Miss Carter. Well, I got Miss White, you know, and if you got Miss Carter's first grade class, you were destined to be successful. If you got Miss White, you're going to prison. So, y'all may think that this is a joke, but my oldest sister is a corporate lawyer at one of the biggest firms in North Carolina. My younger sister's a medical doctor, and I'm your AA speaker tonight. So there you go. You know what I'm saying? So, there's something to that thing. But here I am, you know, I'm 6, 7 years old, and I'm already doomed. You know what I'm saying? You got to remember, I got alcoholism. I didn't need a drink. My mind goes. So I'm already worrying. You know, I'm in the first grade here, and I'm worried about what's going to happen to me. And, you know, I remember laying in bed at night worrying about what was going to happen when I got out of high school, you know. And, you know, that's not a good place to be if you're a kid. You know, you're supposed to be running around having fun and, you know, doing whatever it was we did back then, you know, playing in the dirt. But, you know, so I struggled with that kind of stuff. And, I mean, I had the ism way before I ever took my first drink. And I can remember my first time I got a buzz off alcohol. I was probably 13 years old, 12 or 13. And I'd had some hot Budweiser a time or two, and it wasn't too good. I never got enough to get the effect produced by alcohol. But this night we were camping out back there behind my house down there off of Austin Street in Maxon, North Carolina, me and two of my buddies, and we'd gotten hold of some wine coolers or something like that. It might have been Boone's Farm, I can't remember. All I know is I could get it down. It was hot too. We hadn't quite grasped the concept of ice yet, but you know, I mean, there at the end I was drinking it hot too, so I guess I started and ended the same way. But you know, I got a buzz that night. And man, I loved it. I'm gonna tell you right now, I wasn't awkward at all. I mean, you know, my ears shrunk. You know, I gained like 30 or 40 pounds. All those pimples went away. You know, I knew that if little Susie West would have been there, that I would finally be able to talk to her. And you know, all those things. And the other two guys, they weren't out. They're not alcoholics. I still keep in touch with one of the guys. Is still friends with mine. You know, on Facebook and stuff. We talk back and forth. But same thing didn't happen to them that happened to me that night. They drank a couple of those wine coolers or whatever, and they caught a buzz and all, but, you know, they went and laid down. Man, I was up, like, running around, like, in the woods trying to figure out how am I going to get some more of this stuff, because I done drunk the other 6. And, you know, I was just falling down drunk and just threw up and had a hangover. The next day I got up, my head was, like, throbbing, you know. I didn't care. I couldn't wait to do it again. I was like, man, I can't wait to do that again. I was like, I can't wait to do that again. So, you know, I started the compulsion. You know, the obsession was there. I mean, immediately. And the night before that compulsion, that physical craving, it kicked in for sure. Because I was drinking it as fast as I could puke it. I was drinking it again. And, you know, I mean, something's wrong with us, because I used to make myself sick so I could drink some more. Does that make any damn sense? You know, I mean, think about that. I wouldn't go to the hamburger store and eat and throw up so I could have another hamburger. But boy, I did it with alcohol all the time. And, you know, you think about that. You tell somebody normal those stories, and they look at you like your head's spinning around. But most of the people in here understand exactly where I'm coming from. So I started, you know, it's kind of hard to get alcohol when you're in a First Baptist home, and you know, neither one of my parents drank. There was no alcohol in our house. My older sister, she was studying and stuff. She wasn't cool, so I couldn't get nothing through her. And you know, I was doomed. You know, I'm like, man, now it's even worse. Not only am I awkward, but I know there's a way out, and I can't get there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's worse than not knowing. And so I started changing my friends and started hanging out with some people that if I found out you had a bar at your house, or if your parents had alcohol, we're going to be friends, okay? So I started hanging out and doing sleepovers, and when everybody would go to bed, I would sneak down and get alcohol at these people's houses, and, you know, I'd drink it and go back and pass out. I mean, I didn't, you know, go out and steal the car or nothing. There might have been a couple of pregnant cats or whatever, but I mean, nothing major. That's a joke. But anyway. But that's what I would do, you know, that's how I'd get my alcohol. And tough crowd tonight, I see. But anyway, you know, it worked. I mean, it you know, it got the job done. And, you know, it wasn't too long I was in high school, and some of my friends were a little bit older. If you had a driver's license back then, you know, if you pulled up to a store or whatever, they didn't have all this carding and ID and stuff they have now. I mean, if you walked in there, you're pretty much going to buy alcohol if you had the money. I mean, it was easy. And so I became where I was drank just about every day, maybe a couple of beers after school, and I'd go home and like take a nap before my parents got off work or whatever, so they wouldn't know. I don't know why they didn't smell it. You know, I can't believe my mom. I guess she was too busy raising all them other youngins behind me. But I never got any consequences. I never got in any trouble. I was on up probably 16 or 17 before I started having consequences. And, I did a lot of stuff. I did a lot of things that weren't alcohol. This is Alcoholics Anonymous, but, I started doing a lot of that stuff and started getting in trouble almost immediately. By the time I was a junior in high school, I was on the radar at school. The principal knew me. I mean, I'd been suspended a couple of times. The chief of police knew me. I mean, all the police knew me. I mean, everybody knew me. I mean, it's already starting to be trouble at home. It's causing conflict. And my older sister, she was away at state at college, and I was the oldest. But my two younger sisters and my brother were having to deal with this. They're having to grow up in a house where there's alcoholism and other things going on, and it's not good. I was getting brought home by the cops for public drunkenness before I was even a junior in high school, man. I mean, they would find me passed out on the side of the road, or my friends would just drop me off or whatever, because I'm that guy that if the party starts at 8, I'm passed out at 7, okay? And then I get back up after everybody's already drank everything and trashed the place because there's no alcohol left. So, I mean, I'm already starting to lose friends. Nobody wants to be around me. I'm not even hardly, I'm supposed to be starting to get into the social scene. I'm already, burnt. I'm already shot my wad as far as friends at high school and stuff. So I started hanging out with other people around town, and I fit right in with the winos up there on Main Street as good as I did with the guys I went to high school with. I'm not going to lie about it. I'd do whatever I had to do. By the time I was a senior, I never showed up that year. I ended up going to night school. And I loved night school. Night school was awesome because the teachers there were about as bad as I was. They were teachers that couldn't get a job at day school. So there you go. And we would go in, check in. I needed like one English or whatever, so it was like a little quickie for me. And somehow I ended up graduating with my class. I didn't deserve it, didn't earn it, or nothing like that. I don't even think I went and got my diploma. I think my mama had to go up there and get it. That's kind of the guy I was, but I ended up floundering around for a couple of years, and tried being a salesman, and that didn't work too good, and got in a little trouble with the police, and had to go to court a few times, and thought all that stuff was cool, because all my friends were like that, and if you'd been busted or whatever, that brought you up a notch, I guess is the way I looked at it. But I know today it wasn't really that cool. Ended up joining the Navy. Man, joining the Navy, 1983. And me and my buddy, David, and we used to drink. We'd get drunk and talk about stuff. And one night we were drunk and we decided we were going to join the military. I'm like, all right, let's do it, And once I'd said I'd do it, I couldn't back out. So we go up there to Lumberton. We're trying to get in the Air Force. They wouldn't take us because we were both had some charges and stuff. So they sent us down to the Navy recruiter, and the guy looked at me and said, well, you have to leave all that other stuff alone, but you can drink all you want to. I was like, man, I can do that. I'm good at drinking all I want to. And he was right. You could drink all you wanted to. The Navy loved you. I mean, they did not frown at all on drinking. I'd never been in a bar. Down there where I grew up in Maxton, we drank out in the field or out the tobacco barn. I mean, there were no bars. We drank down by the Lumber River. I don't know if y'all seen those kids on the leashes and stuff at Walmart. I started that. They used to have to tie me up because I'd get drunk and I'd wander off into the swamp. And they'd have to come find me. So my friends, when I would start getting good and drunk, they would tie a rope around my leg so I couldn't crawl off. They couldn't enjoy their drinking and stuff because they knew they were going to have to come look for me. And there's rattlesnakes and moccasins, all kinds of stuff down there. I don't know how I'm alive. But anyway, I probably ought to check on that patent and see if I can get some money. But the Navy was awesome. First time I ever drank in a bar was in Orlando, Florida, and the liquor stores there had bars in them. It was great. Probably my first sign that alcohol was really way more important to me than it should have been. When we're getting out of boot camp, they have a graduation thing, and all the families come and stuff, and they watch you graduate, and all. There's SeaWorld and the Disney World and all that stuff right there, And I told my family I didn't want them to come. You know, my mom and dad, they were going to come down there, and I mean, they were going to have to, you know, I made it sound like I didn't want them to spend the money and stuff. But what I really wanted to do was get drunk, because it'd been 2 months, you know. You can't have any alcohol in boot camp. I mean, they don't even let you have good mouthwash. We tried that, but so we go, me and about 4 other guys, you know, because we attract the same kind. We went to the liquor store and got a hotel room and just drank the whole weekend, you know. Instead of spending time with my family, you know, I'd rather drink. Hadn't seen them, you know, for a couple of months. And it's probably the first time my dad had been proud of me since I was maybe a freshman in high school. And I didn't care, you know, I'm ready to drink, you know, priorities. Ended up, you know, just messing up bad. I mean, the Navy was great for drinking, but you know, they didn't care too much for the other activities I was indulging in. And this is where I start getting these diagnoses. I mean, some of the stuff people would tell me about my drinking, and I was thinking about this today. The captain of my ship, and this guy was a real rocket scientist. I don't know how he got this damn job as captain, but he was convinced that my problem was I parted my hair in the middle. I mean, one of the captain mass I went to for some alcohol-related stuff, one of the orders he had was I had to change the way I part my hair, you know. And I'm thinking, man, I'm thinking about it today. It's like, this guy's in charge of a damn battleship. You know, we got 500 guys on there. We got all this damn heavy machinery and stuff, and this is the best he can do, you know. But I will tell you this. I don't know if I changed the way I parted my hair right before I got sober or about the same time I got sober. But you know, he may have been right. It might not be AA at all. It might be the way I'm parting my hair. I'm not going to risk it. I'm going to keep coming to AA, you know, praying. I started praying about that same time, too. I think that might have something to do with it. But, you know, that's the kind of stuff I would hear, you know. Nobody ever told me about recovery. I mean, they were like, you know, antabutes. I mean, I took antabutes, trust me. You know, you part your hair, you know, stuff like, you know, you don't love your parents, or, you know, you should have more self-will, all these things that we hear, you know. Wasn't until I got to a courtroom in Charlotte, North Carolina, probably 85, and the judge, you know, looked at my record. He knew exactly where I needed to go. And thank God for CPC, PI, because this guy knew where to send me. And he sent me to AA. He sent me to Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, go get this paper signed. And that was my first experience with Alcoholics Anonymous. And I came to a couple of meetings in Aberdeen. And I wasn't stupid. I figured it out pretty quick that nobody was putting their name or their number down. I was like, how are they going to know? So we had a little paper signing party down there at the house, and everybody signed my paper as we sat around and drank one night. I went back to court after 30 days and turned that paper in, and guess what? Got off probation. It was awesome. So Alcoholics Anonymous worked that time, even though it wasn't the way it's supposed to work, but it worked. You know, if you're here to get your paper signed, keep coming back. So I'm going to tell you right now, like, Festus says, AA put a bugger on my drinking. I mean, it was never the same after that. I tried and tried and tried, but it just went downhill quick. So about 92, November of 92, my brother goes to treatment over at Pinehurst Treatment Center. And, you know, that's when I went to that meeting to bring him that stuff down in Aberdeen that night. And it was around the end of November. Right around early, I think maybe early December, he was getting out. And, you know, I don't know why I kept going back to meetings after that. Some guy came up and hugged me after the meeting, told me he loved me, and that wasn't cool at all. And, you know, but it was, I don't know, something about the laughter and the atmosphere, and everybody seemed happy. You know, I wanted that. You know, that's what I've been looking for. You know, alcohol did that early on. But it left pretty quick, you know. I was just never had any joy. You know, I don't remember maybe 10 times being happy the whole time I was drinking. It really, you know, that kind of, you know what I'm talking about, the joy we have in here, you know, that I feel every day now. You know, almost every day I'm like that, you know, just so good you just want to jump up and scream and stuff or whatever. I mean, you know, I get like that. And, you know, I hadn't felt that, you know, ever in my life, probably maybe a couple of times growing up. You know, maybe that first time I got drunk, I felt joy or whatever, but I could never recapture that. You know, I was always chasing that, and I always thought that next deal, you know, man, that's going to be it. If I can just get that next deal, whatever it was. you know, but it never came. It was always hollow when I got that next deal, you know. It was never anything that brought any kind of joy. And I walked into Aberdeen down there in that building and heard her before a meeting, and you know, I mean, I still love to do that today. I like to come in there and walk into that foyer and just listen, because you can hear everybody in the room, you know, talking and laughing and all that. You know, that's what brought me to Alcoholics Anonymous. That was the attraction. You know, I didn't want none of that stuff in the promises. I mean, come on. You know, I'll tell you what I wanted: a pretty girlfriend, lots of money, and a big ass house. You know, we should have come out with some promises for newcomers. You know, we can get them to keep coming if you tell them that stuff. I didn't want no peace and serenity. I mean, come on. But I wanted that laughter. You know, I wanted what y'all had. You know, I wanted that stuff, and that's what attracted me. Another one of those miracles. I'm gonna talk about this. My first sponsor, Raymond Worrell, great guy, you know, I mean, awesome guy. Well, I wasn't smart enough to pick a guy like that. I was at a meeting on a Monday night over at the Episcopal Church. Used to be a speaker meeting. They had Narcotics Anonymous downstairs and had the AA speaker meeting upstairs. And I was in there one night, and I wasn't sober. Obviously, didn't have a sponsor, but I was going to meetings, and the lady chairing the meeting said something about getting a temporary sponsor, see her after the meeting. I went up to her and she introduced me to him. You know, now, he just happened to be at that meeting that night. She just happened to be chairing and knew him, and I got up the courage to ask. You know, that right there, those three things happen all at once like that. And there's a little something going on there, because I'm a guy that would have sit in the back, and you would never known I was there, because that's, you know, I'm scared. You know, I'm afraid of everything. You know, couldn't have been a better pick. I couldn't have picked anybody better. This guy, I'm like, man, you know, it's first time I heard him talk, I was like, oh, no, I didn't. I mean, he's from the mountains of North Carolina. I mean, just as country as they are, but that guy saved my life. I can remember him, he said, well, I'll give you my number, but we'll meet Sunday, and we'll, you know, I thought he was going to interview me, see if I was quality sponsee material. And, you know, I think he wanted to see if I would last, you know, if I was willing, you know, if I waited till Sunday. This was on a Monday night, so Sunday's like 6 days later. And we sat down that Sunday. I met him, and over at the hospital speaker meeting. And after that meeting, we sat down and talked. And he didn't ask me anything. He told me his story. And I can remember thinking, man, I don't know, this guy, he's a pure alcoholic. And at the time, I thought maybe my problem was something else. But right near the end of his story, he told me about his wife had died about 6 months before that with leukemia. And I couldn't understand why this guy wasn't drunk, because, I mean, you know, if your wife dies, don't you get to go drink? You know, why would anybody stay sober if something like that happened? And, you know, that gave me some hope. I was like, if this guy can stay sober, you know, with his wife dying, it's like, man, he's got something I want. So we hooked up, and we started it was like a roller coaster. He would pick me up and take me to meetings, and we would go out of town. He was very active, spoke a lot. We would have a meeting on the way up to wherever we were going. We'd have, you know, the meeting when we were there, and then on the meeting on the way home. And slowly but surely, over about a 3 or 4 month period, I let this guy know a lot of my secrets, and I'd wait for something to come back, because I just knew he was going to tell somebody. And I was, you know, if it came back to me, I'd have my excuse. I could go drink. That never happened. You know, it never happened. I was doing some other things, and I was picking up chips, being dishonest, and you know, the week of March 18th, 93, me and my brother went on a run, one of our last runs. It was not one of it was the last run, and my brother ended up trying to kill himself, and we're over at the hospital emergency room, and you know, I've been going to AA since December. And here it is, it's March, you know, that's what, 3-4 months. And I mean, you know, it's not fun. I mean, if you've been going to AA and you're still out there, you know, you're dabbling, you know, you're not enjoying it. And I can remember thinking, man, I can't believe he's in there, you know, my brother's in there getting his stomach pumped and the charcoal, all that stuff. And all I can think about is how pissed off I am because he did that. We got to stop, you know, because now, you know, I mean, you know, he's done ruined it, man. Why couldn't he just chill out and go steal some more stuff or whatever? And I had a moment of clarity. I'm like, man, I don't want to live like this anymore, you know. I mean, if I can't even have enough love for my own brother, you know, I don't want to live like this anymore. So that night, I called my sponsor, Raymond. I was like, let him know I had a relapse. And he told me, he said, well, not really. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, if you're going to relapse, you have to be in the program first. I was like, ooh. Man, you got a pretty good point there, buddy. So he told me to get my big book out, and we took the third step prayer right there that night over the phone. And, I haven't had the desire to drink since that day. The next 20 years have been a whirlwind for me. Have been it's like one thing after another, and it's like I feel like I just got sober like last week, and I blinked my eyes, and here it is. Like I'm like, dang, wow, where did the time go? But it's, I've made so many friends, and have met so many people, not only in Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's amazing. I've got as many people that care about me that I know that aren't in Alcoholics Anonymous as I do in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that's truly blessed. And it's all because of this program, and because of the way I've learned how to live. And I've struggled with the higher power and the God and all that stuff, and what's God's will and all this stuff. And I can remember a couple of years ago, and I'm thinking, we want to think about this thing. We don't really want to. For some reason, I feel like if I can understand something, then I guess I'm better at it or whatever. But I was, this God's will deal for me is, sometimes I still struggle with it, but this is an example of how things have happened. I got a call on a Saturday morning. I had made plans. I was going to do something. I can't remember exactly what it was. And one of my customers left a voicemail on my phone. I'm like, man, damn, I don't want to call them back because I know it's going to ruin my day. But Alcoholics Anonymous taught me to be responsible and accountable, and just a good customer, spent a lot of money. So I called him back. The guy, it was his 98-year-old mother or whatever, half their power was out, and I knew immediately it was, they'd lost a leg on their service or whatever, and it's probably Progress Energy's fault, but they won't come out unless they get an electrician first, and she's old. So I'm like, all right, I'll come on up there. And I'm bitching, I'm moaning, I'm pissed, I'm like, man, I can't believe this. Don't these people know I have a life too, and all this stuff. And this on a Saturday, and I'd made plans, and I go up there, and sure enough, trace everything out, and it's the power line. The guy from Progress gets there, and I'm out there showing him. It's like, yeah, there it is right there. It's broke with the tree limbs on there. It's like, all right, cool, I got it. And it's like, all right, I'm out of here. A couple of weeks later, I'm at the 11th step meeting down in Aberdeen. This guy comes up to me and shakes my hand and says, I want to thank you. I was like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, 2 weeks ago, my mom died, and over at the hospital, we were on our way back up to Harnett County. I saw you up there in Bass. He said, man, that saved me. He said, it made me know that everything was going to be all right. So God had me up there. He saw me standing beside the road with that guy from Progress Energy. My plan would have been that day to be somewhere else. But, just by doing the right thing, doing the next right thing, and doing what I'm supposed to do, God's able to use me. And, it's that simple for us. It's not complicated. We don't have to, I didn't have to meditate that morning, come floating down the hill, to help that guy out. All I had to do was show up and be accountable. I've had so many instances like that. I was a little over a year sober, and I'd probably slacked off. I had slacked off on my program. You get a year, and it's like, oh man, I can let up now. I got that 365. Woke up damn spiritual this morning, and I was probably been on a dry drunk, and I was having a bad day that day. Working over at Moore Regional Hospital, and I'd made my decision. I was like, man, I'm getting high. I'm going to get high with these guys at lunch. I was going to do it. Because I knew what the guys that I worked with, what they did at lunch. I was like, we're going to go to this little burger joint we go to every day, and when they leave to go over there to the field to drink their beer and do what they're going to do, I'm going with them. I went in this place, and I did pray that morning. That's something I've always been able to do. I prayed that morning. Asked God to keep me sober that day. So I go in this little burger joint, and I get my food. I sit down at the table, and there's no ketchup. I turn around to the table behind me to get the ketchup, and there's 3 guys from Alcoholics Anonymous sitting at that table. If you don't believe in miracles, that was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. I talked to those three guys a little while later, you know, when I was sober enough to admit what was going on that day, and two of them had never been in that place before in their lives. They just happened to run into the third guy out on the street and decided to go in there and eat, you know. So that's another example of these coincidences we talk about. I'm probably going to finish a little bit early here. What does that say up there? 8:30? But, you know, yesterday my oldest nephew, the oldest of any of my parents' grandkids or whatever, turned 18 years old. And he's never seen me take a drink, you know, which is awesome. But what's cool about it, a couple of years ago we were at the beach, and he was asking me, we hang out, because I'm the cool uncle, of course, and we hang out and stuff, and, you know, he knows he can talk to me about girls, and I can give him information, so it's completely useless, because I don't know anything. But anyway, so he's like, I was like, well, you know, I'll probably I might go to a meeting tonight. He's like, why do you go to those meetings? You don't drink. And I'm sitting there thinking, that's exactly why I go to those meetings. You know, this kid's 18 years old and can't conceive the thought in his mind of me as being an alcoholic or drinking or anything. You know, and that's all because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And none of them have ever seen me take a drink, you know, and I know that my mom and dad are proud of me. You know, I mean, I've turned out to be a decent son. You know, my dad's not real good on emotions and stuff, and it's not his fault, it's the way he was raised, you know. I don't remember him ever telling me he loved me when I grew up, but he showed it. You know, he showed it all the time, because he worked for the power company, but he was still able to coach Little League baseball and Little League football, and was, in fact, was like I didn't realize this, was like on the head of the board of recreations or something for Robeson County there at one time. You know, but I never remember him telling me he loved me or anything like that. And a couple of years ago, I spoke on my anniversary down at Aberdeen, and we all went out to eat, and somebody invited them to come hear me speak. And I'd never spoken in front of my parents before. It was rough. So I had to kind of like tone it down a bit, because there's some stuff they don't know about, and they don't really, you know, there's no sense putting them through more pain. But he came up to me after that talk and told me he loved me. And I was like, awesome. So, like, back last July, I made a decision to do something to put my name out, and you know, some friends of mine approached me about it, and I said, yeah, I'll do it. So, like in October, I go over to my parents' house, and they post this stuff. I ran for office, is what happened. I ran for commissioner down in Pinebluff. The Fayetteville Observer listed the polls, or whatever they call it, the ballots and stuff in the paper. So I go over to my mom and dad's, like October. My dad comes running in there with like a stack of newspapers. He's like, look, I got these for you. He's like, your name's in there. I finally made the newspaper for something good, you know. And he was so proud of me, you thought I damn won the Super Bowl or something, man. It was awesome. So we sat there, and man, we cried. He hugged me and told me he loved me. And he's like, I'm proud of you. You know, and all this stuff I've done in Alcoholics Anonymous, all the things that have happened over the years that I've been sober, that right there was worth it. Because that was, you know, that's what I needed, you know. And, you know, this program is great, and it's all about relationships, and it's all about family. You know, if you're in here tonight and you're struggling with a relationship, or you're struggling with a family member or whatever, you know, man, get in the steps and do those 9 steps and make amends and try to work on it, because that's all we got, you know. And, you know, I've gained a lot of things over the years in Alcoholics Anonymous, but the most important thing I've gotten is my family. You know, and I'm a member of that family again, and for years I wasn't. You know, I was that piece of dog dookie over there in the corner that nobody talked about, you know, and everybody knew about it, but, you know, you never heard about it, you know. I mean, if you came to visit the house, it was obvious, but, you know, from the outside it might have looked good, but on the inside it was there. And, you know, today I don't have to live like that, and, you know, I think I'm about done. So, Brad, I appreciate you asking me to speak, and, you know, I'll see y'all in about 5 more years, I guess. Wallace, early congratulations, you know, just in case you don't make it or something, but, I mean, I don't know, you might go out and get drunk tonight, but man, I tell you what, Tom and Wallace, I mean, if you guys are new, you realize what's going on in here tonight. I mean, look around here at these guys. I mean, there's some damn old-ass guys in here sober tonight. I mean, you're not going to see this at too many AA meetings. I don't know, maybe anywheres. And, you know, it's just, I'm just grateful. Neil's one of my, I'm about to forget to read my thing. Neil's one of my guys that's you know, one of my heroes, my AA heroes, Tom, Wallace, and these guys, you know. And I was just wondering when y'all were going to change the meeting time till noon so they can stay awake for it. But, this little thing right here, another one of my AA heroes, Randall Moss, gave me this. Had his wife make copies of this, and he used to read this at the end of all his speeches. Every time he would talk, he had it memorized, but I'm not as smart as he was. And the reason I read this when I finish my talk is because I want to carry on something that was passed down to me, but it also helps me remember that nothing I have is original, and keeps me humble that everything that I have today is because of somebody that sacrificed before me that came along. And that keeps me humble so that I know that I need to stay here for the next man that comes behind me. And this is a little poem. I don't need these glasses, but they look cool. About love. The wonderful love of a beautiful maid, the love of a staunch true man, and the love of a baby unafraid has existed since life began. But the greatest love, the love of loves, even greater than that of a mother for the tender, passionate, infinite love. No, it's the tender, passionate, infinite love of one alcoholic for another. Thank you.